Chapter 34. Fancy meeting you here. On Monday morning, instead of sitting in first period bio, Emily stood next to her parents in the high school ceiling's marble-floored nave of Rosewood Abbey. She tugged uncomfortably at the black pleated too-short Gap skirt she found in the back of her closet and tried to smile. Mrs. De Laurentiis stood in the doorway, clad in a cowl-neck black dress, heels, and tiny freshwater pearls. She walked up to Emily and engulfed her in a hug. "Oh, Emily," Miss De Laurentiis sobbed. "I'm so sorry," Emily whispered back, her own eyes watering. Mrs. De Laurentiis still wore the same perfume, Coco Chanel. It instantly brought back all kinds of memories. A million rides to and from the mall in Mrs. De Laurentiis' Infinity, sneaking into her bathroom to steal Trim-a-Spa tablets, and to experiment with her expensive La Prairie makeup, going through her enormous walk-in closet and trying on all her sexy size 2 black Dior cocktail dresses. Other kids from Rosewood streamed around them, trying to find seats in the high-backed wooden pews. Emily hadn't known what to expect at Allison's memorial service. The Abbey smelled like incense and wood. Simple cylinder-shaped lamps hung from the ceiling, and the altar was covered with a billion white tulips. Tulips were Allison's favorite flower. Emily remembered Allie helped her mom plant rows of them in their front yard every year. Allison's mom finally stood back and wiped her eyes. "I want you to sit up front with all of Allie's friends. Is that okay, Kathleen?" Emily's mom nodded. "Of course." Emily listened to every click of Mrs. De Laurentiis' heels and the shuffling of her own chunky loafers as they walked down the aisle. Suddenly it hit Emily why she was here again. Allie was dead. Emily clutched Mrs. De Laurentiis' arms. Oh my God. Her field of vision narrowed and she heard a wah noise in her ears, the sign that she was about to faint. Mrs. De Laurentiis held her upright. "It's okay, come on, sit down here." Dizzily, Emily slid into the pew. "Put your head between your legs," she heard a familiar voice say. Then another familiar voice snorted. "Say it louder so all the boys can hear." Emily looked up. Next to her were Arya and Hannah. Arya wore a blue, purple, and fuchsia-striped cotton boat neck dress, a navy velvet jacket, and cowboy boots. It was so Arya. She was the type who thought wearing some color to funerals celebrated the living. Hannah, on the other hand, wore a skimpy black V-neck dress and black stockings. "Dear, can you move over?" Above her, Mrs. De Laurentiis stood with Spencer Hastings, who wore a charcoal suit and ballet flats. "Hey, guys," Spencer said to all of them, in that buttery voice Emily had missed. She sat down next to Emily. "So we meet again," Arya said, smiling. Silence. Emily peeked at all of them out of the corner of her eye. Arya was fidgeting with a silver ring on her thumb. Hannah was fumbling around in her purse, and Spencer was sitting very still, staring at the altar. "Poor Allie," Spencer murmured. The girls sat quietly for a few minutes. Emily racked her brain for something to say. Her ears filled with the wah sound again. She twisted around to scan the crowd for Maya, and her eyes landed square on Ben's. He was sitting in the second-to-last row with the rest of the swimmers. Emily lifted her hand in a tiny wave. Next to this, the party stuff seemed petty. But instead of waving back, Ben glared at her, his thin mouth in a stubborn straight line. Then he looked away. Okay. Emily swung back around. Rage filled her body. "My old best friend was just found murdered," she wanted to scream. "And we're in church, for God's sake. What about forgiveness?" Then it hit her. She didn't want him to take her back, not one bit. Arya tapped her on the leg. "You okay after Saturday morning? I mean, you didn't even know yet, right?" "No, it was something else, but I'm okay," Emily answered, even though that wasn't true. "Spencer," Hannah's head popped up. I saw you at the mall recently." Spencer looked at Hannah. "Huh? You were going into Kate Spade." Hannah looked down. "I don't know, I was going to say hi, but I'm glad you don't have to order those purses from New York anymore." She put her head down and blushed, as if she said too much. Emily was startled. She hadn't seen Hannah make that expression in years. Spencer's brow crinkled. Then a sad, tender look came over her face. She swallowed hard and looked down. "Thanks," she muttered. Her shoulders started to shake, and she squeezed her eyes shut. Emily felt her own throat choking up. She'd never actually seen Spencer cry. Arya put her hand on Spencer's shoulder. "It's okay," she said. "Sorry," Spencer said, wiping her eyes with her sleeve. She glanced around at all of them and then started crying even harder. Emily hugged her. It felt a little awkward, but by the way Spencer squeezed her hand, Emily could tell she appreciated it. When they sat back, Hannah pulled a tiny silver flask out of her bag and reached over Emily to pass it to Spencer. "Here," she whispered. Without even smelling it or asking what it was, Spencer took a huge swallow. She winced, but said thanks. She passed the flask back to Hannah, who drank and handed it to Emily. Emily took a sip, which burned in her chest, then passed it to Arya. Before drinking, Arya pulled out Spencer's sleeve. "This'll make you feel better too." Arya tugged down the shoulder of her dress to reveal a white knitted bra strap. Emily immediately recognized it. Arya had knitted heavily woven bras for all the girls in 7th grade. "I wore it for old time's sake," Arya whispered. "It's itching like hell." Spencer sputtered out a laugh. "Oh my god. You're such a spaz," Hannah added, grinning. "I could never wear mine, remember?" Emily chimed. "My mom thought it was too sexy for school." "Yeah," Spencer giggled. "If you call something scratching your boobs all day sexy." The girls snickered. Suddenly, Arya's cell phone buzzed. She reached into her bag and looked at the phone screen. "What?" Arya looked up, realizing they were all staring at her. Hannah fiddled with her charm bracelet. "Did you just get a text message?" "Yeah, so? Who was it?" "It was my mom," Arya answered slowly. "Why?" Low pipe organ music began to lift through the church. Behind them, more kids shuffled in quietly. Spencer glanced nervously at Emily. Emily's heart started to pound. "Never mind," Hannah said. "That was nosy." Arya licked her lips. "Wait, seriously, why?" Hannah's Adam's apple rose with a nervous swallow. I just thought maybe strange things had been happening to you, too." Arya's mouth fell open. Strange is an understatement. Emily clutched her arms around herself. "Wait, you guys too?" Spencer whispered. Hannah nodded. "Texts?" "Email," Spencer said. "About stuff from 7th, Arya whispered. "Are you guys serious?" Emily squeaked. The friends stared at each other, but before anyone could say anything else, the somber-sounding pipe organ filled the room. Emily turned around. A bunch of people were walking slowly up the center aisle. It was Allie's mom and dad, her brother, her grandparents, and some others who must have been relatives. 2 red-headed boys were the last to come down the aisle. Emily recognized them as Sam and Russell, Allie's cousins. They used to visit Allie's family every summer. Emily hadn't seen them in years and wondered if they were still as gullible as they used to be. The family members slid into the front row and waited for the music to stop. As Emily stared at them, she noticed movement. One of the pimply, red-headed cousins was staring at them. Emily was pretty sure it was the one named Sam. He'd been the geekier of the two. He stared at all the girls and then slowly and flirtatiously raised an eyebrow. Emily looked away. She felt Hannah jab her in the ribs. "Not it," Hannah whispered to the girls. Emily looked at her puzzled, but then Hannah motioned with her eyes to the 2 gangly cousins. All the girls caught on at the same time. "Not it," Emily, Spencer, and Arya said at once. They all giggled, but then Emily paused, considering what "not it" really meant. She never really thought about it before, but it was kind of mean. When she looked around, she noticed her friends had stopped laughing too. They all exchanged a look. "I guess it was funnier back then," Hannah said quietly. Emily sat back. Maybe Allie didn't know everything. Yes, this might have been the worst day of her life, and she was horribly devastated about Allie, and completely freaked out about A. But for a moment she felt okay. Sitting here with her old friend seemed like a tiny beginning of something.